And now, it's time for that great new game show.
It's the PowerShell Podcast. It's all about PowerShell and the PowerShell community.
The PowerShell Podcast.
And now, here's your hosts, Jordan Hammond and Andrew Plaw.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the PowerShell Podcast. I'm mediocre host Jordan with ultra mega star Andrew Plaw. And today we have returning guest Adam Bacon. I think applause is absolutely the appropriate response. So you're on before. You've done a lot with PowerShell. I guess
that's right.
You know, we had all that, but you talked about how you're going through some changes in your career and everything at the time. We were about right back. How all that shake out?
Boom. Well, guys, first of all, it's great to see you again, Jordan and Andrew. You know, I hope you missed me as much as I missed you guys. You know, it's been a while, man. Yeah, so first off, I'm totally honored to be second shout out come to the PowerShell podcast. That's totally wicked. I did actually ask the guys at work if I could give anyone a shout out, and I was asked to give Mizzle a massive shout out. So shout out going to Mizzle crew. But yeah, basically, last time I spoke to you guys, I was not feeling a madman, but you know when you walk down the high street or you guys got your big city centres and you see those people on the boxes and they're yelling stuff and, you know, trying to convince people like this is real or whatever. And I don't know, I guess I was feeling a bit like that, you know, I was trying to push myself so much and, you know, do things like show people that you can do this with PowerShell, you can do that, you know, and get the word out there. And I'm totally shocked that it actually seemed to sort of like lay some seeds, and those seeds have now grown into beautiful flowers, which is a beautiful job for me. Yeah, so like proper well happy, you know, everything's been going pretty spot on since I last spoke to you guys, you know, now employed in that and working, and it's a sort of a step up the ladder from like, it's not so much the support role, it's more on platform and infrastructure. And obviously, I got employed there because I told them that I've been on the PowerShell podcast. And obviously, I showed them my PowerShell skills as well on my website and stuff. So, yeah, you know, they employed me mainly primary to do PowerShell, but I've been doing a lot of other things as well. And, yeah, it's just been going great. And I've recently had a few other PowerShell opportunities pop up, which is quite mad. So, yeah, that's good.
So huge congrats on that. Jordan, it sounds like he stumbled upon a realization that we've heard a few times, which is when you put yourself in positions to be seen, whether that's going to user groups, speaking, writing blogs, participating online, you increase your chance of that turning into something. Like Adam said, laying seeds, right? When each time you post a blog post, each time you're doing public work or whatever, those are opportunities to lay seeds. And it sounds like Adam just experienced one of those seeds, like he said, turning into a flower right before his eyes. I think that's such an important thing to highlight because we're all in our own ways kind of laying seeds, small seeds, big seeds, but it is such an amazing, beautiful thing to see those seeds blossom and turn into something. And who knows what's going to happen next for you. But that's just such an awesome journey that I'm so happy that we got to talk to you before when you were kind of looking for work, and now afterwards that you've found a really rewarding job. That's awesome.
It is awesome, man. You know, like, to be honest, like, I wouldn't have really probably been applying for this type of job. And like the guy who phoned me for the agency, when he was telling me about it, I'm like, almost felt like it was a prank. You know what I'm saying? Like that some mate or something's going, like, you know, but yeah, it seemed too good to be true, but it is true. And they're paying me every month. So, you know what I mean? It's going well. It's feeding the family and that. So all good.
When I first started here, I assumed I was in like a reality TV show, and they're just waiting to see how long it took me to figure out that it wasn't a real job. Do you feel like you're going through that yourself, or is that
what, from working from home in that, or like?
Oh, I just
realization of it all.
Yeah, just when I got here, I just got to a place where I got to write PowerShell every day, and they treated me the way that you're always told that no office is going to treat you that way. So I'm like, this isn't a real place. I'm waiting for, like, eventually going to show up as like, we thought you'd figure out eventually, but this is a TV show. You got to go home.
Well, you know what I mean? it's quite mad because obviously the company's big. We're talking like thousands of employees, like thousands of servers, machines, whatever. So they got loads of machines and that. But I don't know, like the nice thing for me is like your opinion actually gets counted these days. Like I've been employed sort of as a contractor, but when I'm saying stuff like previous jobs when I was younger and I didn't have a bit of facial hair and I had a lovely man tail up here, but yeah, people would just look at you and be like, what's that noob know? Or I'm 20 years older than him, or it did feel kind of like an age thing and a bit of experience. But obviously having this job now and being able to say, well, I've done this in the past and it's worked great, and for these notes to be taken down and that, that's like a nice rewarding feeling, that people actually listen to you and want to take your points on board instead of being like, oh, shut up, man. Like, we ain't got time for you jabbering on about PowerShell again, because you know what I mean? They actually like think, oh yeah, we could do that. And to be fair, like this job it's awesome. The people are awesome. Everything about it is awesome. A bit like that Lego movie. But yeah, I can't fault it. I'm getting to do loads of PowerShell. It's a bit different because obviously other places where I've worked, I've been me, myself, and I as the scripting guy. But there's other scripting people there, and I'm looking at scripts that other people have written, and that's quite mad for me because normally I don't ever look at other people's scripts and then seeing how they've written it, and and yeah, just trying to work out what the script's doing or whatever. And there's just so much stuff that's automated, so it's great to sort of have my fingers in the pie and being part of the team and that.
That's so exciting. Now, this sounds like the best job you've ever had, like you've said, the most PowerShell focused job and so on. How are you going to turn those positive experiences into lasting confidence? Because that's something I personally struggle with. It's like you have good experiences in work and it seems like you're having a lot of success, right? Tangible things that are like, oh, hey, this guy can be successful. This guy can do things. How are you navigating this new kind of arena where you're in this new fancy job and you have these skills that people are really starting to take notice of? Are you used to it? Do you perceive yourself differently? How has that changed at all? Or have you always like had a sense of confidence inside you?
I mean, I personally, like when I was growing up as a teenager and that, I went to like a military boarding school, which wasn't, for me, but like you always had to put on like a blag or a brave front, to like, so that you wouldn't get picked on or bullied or anything. So, I feel confident enough that I've been doing IT for long enough that even if I don't have a Scooby-Doo what the person's on about, there's always my mate Google, or I can ask, or, just stop and think about it logically and, what would be the best way to approach this problem. But I mean, the main thing for my job is all these new things I've got to work with. New technologies and tools. Sorry, I can't really mention every single one or, go into detail about them. But I will say recently, big up Mr. Adam Driscoll with his PowerShell Universal. Because obviously, like I said, like everything's automated at this place and they've got so many scripts. But you've still got some mentality where people are like, well, that's a script. I don't want to touch it because it involves like opening up a console and doing some commandlets or something. So obviously with that PowerShell Universal where you can build the beautiful looking dashboards, I think that's my next goal for like where I'm working now. And obviously I've done that in the past, built some dashboards, and like previously one of the directors where I was working like literally wrote 2 sentences. And I built like a whole complaint system from the 2 sentences, like on how the whole system, like he literally just scribbled out some like garbled note, and it's making something from nothing, which if I could maybe extend that on to like PS Day UK, which is happening in London from the 1st of March to the 3rd of March. I've actually been lucky enough to be given an opportunity to speak there. And that's what I'd like to sort of do my talk on, is saying to people that, yeah, PowerShell, it is a console, but, you could write this script, and once you've got your little output in this console, you could then make that into like a beautiful Van Gogh picture, you know, aka a dashboard, so that Jim can use it, Fred can use it, Sally can use it, because it's just point and click what most people are used to these days. So yeah, you know what I mean? I'm trying to plant some more seeds and, you know, like say people, oh, well, we could do this for this, or we could use it for that, or, you know, we can automate this with that. And yeah, just my mind never stops thinking of like all these things that, you know, you could do or make better, you know, progress.
Yeah. I think that if you're dealing with a project at work where you're writing some automation or solving some problem, if your deliverable at the end is a beautiful dashboard that solves the problem, it looks nice to everyone involved. I imagine that's a very nice way to finish working on a project, is to deliver some sort of dashboard using Universal Dashboard. I'm excited for that talk. So congrats on getting accepted there.
Thank you.
What's the official title of the talk?
So basically, I don't do social media that much these days. You know what I mean? I'm not that much on Twitter. I just read the paper too much and see all the negative press about Elon and that. So I was like, I'll stay off Twitter for a bit. But yeah, I went on LinkedIn, and the guy who arranged the PowerShell Southampton talk, like meet up, he's speaking there, Adam Cook, and he was tagged me in it and said, hey, you know, you should apply for this. And there was 2 days left. So I was a bit like, oh, what can I do? And I just thought, hang on a minute, like all through my IT career since I got using it, PowerShell's always come to the rescue. So I just put like PowerShell to the rescue, and then I'm gonna sort of maybe talk about something that you might have an idea of, you know, build that, and then like show how you could do maybe something cool with like the Doug Fink Excel module, making it into a pretty pivot table or charts in Excel. Then go, hey, you can notch it up another level now. You can have some dashboard that's got some like login features, and, you know, Bob has access to this, but Jim doesn't have access to that. And, you know, it's going to automate all these people's jobs, or, you know, or make their lives easier. Because again, like I said, it's like there's so much stuff that's automated where I've got, and there is scripts for other people to run. But like I say, is, you know, there's just always that thing that it's that console looking thing, and it's all a bit 1980s looking to some people, you know what I mean? And
yeah, if you see a script, it can be intimidating. If they can click a button and it runs the script, they never see it. That's just happy times.
And if you give them like a little whirly icon and that, then they won't keep clicking that button. And you know what I mean? You can do all of that in PowerShell Universal. Not that I'm not selling it or anything. But yeah, I just think it is an underrated product, because I've got, you know, reports that I've seen out there that other people have done, and, you know, other people in the team said, oh, you know, that report could be better. And I'm just like, yeah, damn, give that to me. And, you know, I'll maybe even make a new module or some fancy graphing, or, you know, do something cool with it.
I like what you highlighted earlier too, though. Like if you're not at the point where you are able to take on the idea of creating a dashboard or get a new thing, maybe you haven't even worked with Import Excel yet, delivering Excel reports and putting a little bit of attention to detail in how they look and how they're presented goes a very long way at validating your PowerShell skills internally. I know it's kind of not what we're talking about, but when you can put that little attention to detail with what you spend your time automating, it goes such a long way at validating the need for you to do it. Again, it just looks good to the bosses. So if you haven't played around with Import Excel, you know, creating Excel files and stuff like that with your output, I definitely recommend it. And I'm very excited to hear that that's part of your talk as well.
So I was curious, because you said you've always been kind of the lone PowerShell guy, and now you're in a place where you're filled with people that do PowerShell. Do you find you enjoy it more where you can just collaborate within your company for PowerShell, or is it just kind of you just all still do your own thing, you're all just doing PowerShell?
Well, you know, without going into too much detail, but some things that aren't even PowerShell related, you know what I mean? I've got involved in PowerShell and them, like using Ansible and tracking the progress of that. I actually use that Import Excel to monitor how many machines were having stuff deployed to them and that. And, you know, he's got a report which just basically did a beautiful Excel worksheet with pivot tables and charts and all of that, sending that out. But yeah, working with other people, it's great because you get to see their perspective. But I guess like the biggest thing that I've learned is because there's so many scripts that you might change this thing, and then ultimately it might have a knock-on effect up there somewhere that you didn't foresee, or you know what I mean? It's just having to be like double, triple, quadruple quins, and I can't think of the thing after that. But you know what I'm saying? You have to be like extra sure what I'm changing, and you know we've got like a working with Azure DevOps to be able to have like a proper repository and everything, which is super cool. Like change control and all of that. So it's nice sort of working in just such a professional environment, like whereas before, where you're the only scripting guy, you can pretty much do it how you like, or you know what I mean. But when there's set things in place, like you know, creating a pull request and someone actually physically looking, checking your code and making sure your code's all right, you know, and improving it and it going off, yeah, it's nice, but like I say, is the guy who did the majority of the coding. I don't code like how he codes. You know what I mean? It doesn't bother me, but it's just I don't want to go and tweak too much bits of the code. If, like I said, if suddenly it breaks another script over there that you didn't even know that runs. You know what I mean? So I am modifying scripts and creating new scripts, but ideally, like I say, is I'd like to do some more stuff with dashboards where I'm working, just to maybe open up some people's eyes. And I mean, I know Microsoft has some great tools out there, or like the Power Buy and you know other things. But again, it's I guess you got to learn that, and then you know you're starting from scratch again, like having to spend time learning that, or you know, from what I've seen, like it didn't look that much better than Excel or whatever. You know what I mean? From like. For me, PowerShell Universal is like the Mutt's nuts.
Yeah, I've done some with Grafana, and
Yeah.
it looks pretty good, but it's not intuitive, especially with PowerShell. Getting it in there is a bit a struggle. So I'd be curious a comparison of the two products to see how it goes, because that's the biggest problem I had with Grafana was getting the charts and everything to represent the data the way I'm trying to. Like there's always seems to be some sort of disconnect.
I mean, basically, without sort of going without talking like sending someone to the moon or whatever, but I think of it like you've got your screen. Within that screen you've got the 12 blocks, so 12's the magic number. So if I want just two things side by side, they're both going to be a size of 6, if you see what I'm saying, because then that's 12, that's the whole thing. But maybe I want a little edge here, so I could do a column of 3 size and then put your thing next to it that's 3, another 3, and then an empty 3 space, if you see what I mean, to like arrange where the stuff's laid out and that. And it took me like a little while when I first got using the product years ago, like to get that into my head. But once now I see everything as like a little grid, and then I can say, well, I want that box in my head to be a size 8, and then that gives me a 4, like a size of 4 left to play with. You know what I mean? So then I could add maybe 2 boxes of whatever it is, 4. I think, man, don't get me doing maths at like 8 o'clock at night in the evening.
No. I just want to clarify though. So we're talking about designing a dashboard with Universal Dashboard. You say that the total amount of blocks in terms of width is 12. So when you're designing particular elements, you can subtract from 12 and kind of make it fit. If you want it to be the full width, you select 12, half would be 6, basically. Okay.
Exactly. And then what's really cool is like you have the option that you want that to be 6 or half the screen when it's full screen, but maybe I've got an iPad, so that medium size, I only want it to be 3. And then you can only view it on your mobile, so I'll do the small sizes too. So then it rearranges on your screen size, like when you might stretch like a news page in and then everything all goes nicely in a column. Well, boom, that's how, it's all controlled by React. And like I said, is I just think of things like in a grid in my head and think, well, I want something there on the page, I want something there, and I want a big picture there. So I just think of it in grid boxes and then just put the rows and columns, bish bash bosh, job done. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you mentioned a bunch of different technologies. You can't speak to all of them. That's fine. But we also know about you is you're very, very advanced in PowerShell. And I'm wondering, how do your PowerShell skills transfer to the new technologies? Are there any insights that you've gotten in your time with PowerShell that kind of lend themselves to the new technologies or anything like that?
Well, I mean, I've always had the mindset since sort of completing my first challenge with PowerShell back in version 1, which was like auditing computers, that, you know, I've got the mindset that anything could be done in PowerShell. Sadly, well, so much stuff but obviously I've got the problem at work where maybe I'm dealing with other operating systems that haven't got like .NET, you know, on them to have the PowerShell or whatever. But, you know, then you can lean to other things like Ansible, which, you know, is super cool. But yeah, I've just always got I'm just always confident that I could solve the problem with PowerShell. You know what I mean? No matter what issue I get, that there'll either be a module out there or there'll be some way of interacting with that, whatever you're connecting to, via like WMI, CIM or SSH or, you know, anything, like just to get into the device and getting the information or yeah. So it's just sometimes like you might have the idea, but I just haven't had enough time to sort of like fully investigate some ideas that I've had, like to automate. But I mean, I have it the other day where I had like to do something on 3 users, but for me, I just ended up writing like a small PowerShell function because I know that I'm going to be doing that again in sometime in the future. And although it was only 3 users, it was only about like 3 lines, you know what I mean, to do a for each loop or whatever that needed doing and checking some stuff. It was a few extra lines, and I thought the amount of clicks you're going to save and that. But yeah, I always see things as a challenge, and you know, today I've been working a lot with Linux, which I find very challenging at times.
I think that what you're describing, that kind of tool making approach, right? You only have to create 3 users or do something with them. You create a tool for it. I think that approach, you can take it from PowerShell because, you know, we learn how to make modules and whatnot over time. And we're very used to solving a problem once, not repeating ourselves. And with these different technologies, a lot of times there is a proper way to solve the problem at the root, even if it doesn't involve PowerShell, where you're actually kind of creating a tool or developing a process or so on and so forth, rather than just solving one individual ticket. I love that way, how people kind of come to the conclusion that this is the way we approach problems, is we actually solve things at the root. And I feel like it's such a wise position to have when you're investing your career into IT to be efficient.
Well, I mean, yeah, without again letting too much out, but I mean, massive shout out to Chrissy Lemaire. She's an awesome person. I believe you guys had her on the show. Honestly, like she could be my sister for all I care, you know what I mean? Like, I love her that much. She's such a great person. Seriously got so much respect for her. But yeah, the KB update module. So you know, Windows updates and that, and pushing out updates. And yeah, I think I've opened a few people's eyes saying, hey, you know, we could use this and you don't have to reboot because, you know, Chrissy's clever enough to have told you in this report whether it requires a reboot or not, because it does seem that if you do it the graphical user interface way, you're always forced to reboot, where, you know, I mean, I've been managing to able to update some machines now without rebooting. And then again, now in my mind, like a dashboard is brewing for that, because you could save someone a hell of a lot of time, you know what I mean? Like if people are, pointing and clicking.
Yeah, that's the best way to get adopted is if it's useful for you, you just have to prove to them that it'll be useful to them in the same way. And that's how you get wide adoption is, I mean, if it's useful for you, it's because it's doing a very specific thing. Not necessarily very specific. It's doing a task that you need. Someone else has that task. So it makes it easier to spread it out if you can just show, I guess, instant value kind of like that.
I mean, one of those things like Windows updates, I mean, it sucks, doesn't it, when you're watching it or waiting for it to reboot, and it's just like watching paint dry. It's just painful. And I'm just like, damn, like, you know, if I can, well, again, like say, this is how good security is at my place. I was actually using that module late at night, thinking, yeah, you know, I'm doing all this work just at a click of a button, yeah. And then like suddenly I see it on my screen pop up saying call security now, and I'm like, okay, call security, and they're like, they think my account's been compromised, because I'm hitting all these machines with my account, you know, doing this WMI stuff. And I'm like, nah, bro, I'm pushing out Windows updates. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to work smarter, not harder. But yeah, you know, it's like, so yeah, just things like that. Again, I've never worked anywhere that's had such a good security team, like, you know, that's on you at like 10 o'clock at night. You know, someone's watching, like, you think, oh yeah, I'm doing this, like, you know, out of goodness of my own heart. And then, yeah, you know, you got security watching you.
Yep, especially if you're using modules that like call any DLLs or things like that. I've been in a similar boat.
So what I'm hearing, we've all talked to security recently.
Yes.
I used certificates to bypass two-factor for a bit. They were not happy with me.
They're monitoring. They need to know you're just a madman doing what you do.
I went with I was testing something for a webcast.
Yep.
Which was fine, but then they removed all my access, it's fair.
That is fair. So what's it like to have a job you love after 20 years? I mean, goodness gracious, that's a long 20 years.
Well, I did actually, I think it was last night. I went on LinkedIn and I remembered early 2000s, I had this IT job and got myself in a bit of a pickle at work, you know, just being a young lad. And the HR lady called me in and she was like, Adam, why do you come to work? And I'm like, what a stupid question. I come to work to get paid. You know what I mean? Like, why does anyone else come to work? And she looked at me in this funny look and she was like, well, I come to work because I love this job. And I just thought it was the biggest pile of bull, you know, I can't say the other one, but you know what I'm saying, like, that I'd ever heard. But yet, like, almost 20 years later or something, or about 20 years later, I finally found that job that she was on about. And, you know, if I could live for free and someone was just putting food in my kids' mouths, I would be doing this job just for the love of it. It's great that it pays me as well. I think you guys call it soccer, we call it football, but, you know, I'm always thinking like those dudes have, you know, got the dream job because they get to kick a ball about doing something that they loved all their whole life and they're getting paid like $100,000 a week. I'm not on that much. I wish I was. But yeah, I get paid good from this job. It's paying good. It's feeding my family. You know, it's just really positive, and it's just great that it's working from home. You know, that I don't have to deal with the traffic every morning because I live in an alright place in UK. You know, it's Gosport, but it's just a hellhole to get in and out of. You know, you can take like 20, 30 minutes to do less than 4 miles. And then you're like, then you got to get on the motorway and then you got to do another 12 miles to get where you got, you know what I mean? It's like an hour of your day, you know, in the morning, then an hour in the evening getting home. So like, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to work till 7 odd o'clock at night or whatever. And the missus is like, get off that lap. And I'm like, babe, I've just saved myself 2 hours today from not driving. You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy to just put it in on the laptop doing a bit extra because I love the job, you know what I mean? It's just like I literally would just do it for the love of it because it's awesome.
For those that still have to commute though, I would say there's no better time to listen to the PowerShell podcast because I hear it's delightful.
Yeah. Or, you know, if you're lucky enough and you got a fancy watch or, you know, phone, you get to see me this time around, you know. So they missed the PowerShell costume, didn't they, lad? You know, I was all dressed up last time as PowerShell man and no one got to see it, you know. I didn't want you guys blagging me with any lag, you know, this time, so I didn't bother putting on the costume. Maybe next time. If you give me a third chance, you know, make it 3 rounds like a UFC match, you know.
Non-championship, man. You might want that championship title here, man. You're talking about PowerShell guy.
Wow,
what is the third one? The rubber band?
If you think I'm up there for a title shot, bring it on, you know. I'll go to 5 rounds, man.
I kind of am in a similar place where I'm like really digging my career and how things are going, but it's sometimes, like you said, Jordan, earlier, it's kind of hard to believe it's real. And it's weird to have the same internal struggles like as a human that I did very early on in my career, where it's like I still feel that imposter syndrome and I have to remind myself, kind of like what you said earlier, where it was like, okay, I've solved things before, I have Google foo, I'm a human, I can get things done, worst case scenario. Having to remind myself of that, it's just, gosh.
I mean, I've recently obviously with my missus cooking another baby in her oven, another little baby bacon.
Congrats.
I've said to her, like, just stop her work, and I do on call. So I've got an on call thing that I've got on a rotor, and yeah, man, I was out walking my dogs in the woods with one of my kids, and suddenly got the call like, this is wrong, and I was like, because all week, like, my phone hadn't rung, and then like the one time I think, yeah, I'll go out and just enjoy a walk. Got the call, but yeah, I was totally bricking it because I knew it was like obviously NetScaler related. I'm not going to claim that I'm a NetScaler black belt. I know how to do certain things with it, and I've written my own module to connect to it and do stuff via the API, but I'm not a black belt. And this thing was down and I couldn't even find it. But then basically I get told that I needed some RSA token to be able to connect to another server to be able to see. And I'm like, well, I don't have that RSA token, so I can't do anything, you know what I mean? But they were like, no, it's cool, it can wait till Monday. But yeah, there is times like where you say like you're a bit panicking, like imposter syndrome, like, like, why can't I find this damn device? You know what I mean? Like, where is it? Like, and you get a bit panicky and things. But I guess as well, like, I've never sort of had it work from home. So it's a bit weird because normally like you could just turn around and be like, hey, how does this work? Or just ask a colleague, hey, where do I go to get that? And I know you can over Teams and everything, but it's just that little bit different, if you know what I mean, that you're just a bit more just on your own. But again, I love it because I don't get any distractions or office things that would wind me up or something, you know what I mean? I'm just here at home in the Woosah Peace Land,
Have you met your team in person or all virtual?
Oh, well, no. So obviously when I got the job, I drove up because it's about 3-4 hours away from my house. So I drove up the night before, stayed in like a cheap hotel, and then I went in and I met some of them. So I haven't met all of them, but I've met the majority of them. And yeah, they're honestly, they're all such nice people. Like, to have a team where everyone's nice. You haven't even got that one bad villain person, or you know what I mean? Like, everybody is genuinely nice, and again, like, I think, oh damn, I've been there a bit over 3 months now, and sometimes I think, oh, should I be asking this question? But I'm glad that I can feel that I can ask that question and not have to think, oh, like that I'm not going to goof anything up, because I always think, well, it's better to ask it and do it their procedure way, because like I said, when so many things are automated at this place, like, you might have always done it like that in this job, but this particular job will have some script that's double checking that, and then it will undo it, you know what I mean, like an hour later or something. So it's very, like, again, I never come across RBAC.
Role-based access.
Yeah. So again, just where I've previous, but they've got all that like scripted working. So you just think, yeah, I'll just do that to that user account. That'll fix that. And then like half an hour later, it's undone it. You know what I mean? By some script. You're like, damn, like. So yeah, it's been a bit, I don't know, just like getting your head round. Because again, some other guys started our team, and I've been speaking to him, and again, like, it's a bit of a like, like for him, like, just do this. But I'm like, well, you got to think of this script that would run, or the implications for that and that, like how it all, the bigger picture, I guess.
The context of the system, yeah. So you've mentioned this is the best environment you've worked in. You mentioned asking a lot of questions. Do you find that the healthier places that you've worked are more encouraging of like communication and asking questions, and the more toxic and, like you mentioned, maybe having a villain on the team, they'll shame you for asking questions. They're not vulnerable. They're not honest. Like, what's your opinion of that in your experience?
Well, I mean, I've worked at places where like, it's like, we do it this way. And you're like, but that takes ages because you're doing all this. No, we do it this way. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way that you're going to do it because they've done it that way for the last 5 or 10 years, and that's the way they do it. Kind of like what I said earlier is, it's just amazing to work somewhere where I can actually suggest an idea, and even though they've got a really good system in place, if you can see some improvement, instead of someone going, no, we've got the best system in place, someone will actually go, actually, I can see what he means. Like, that will actually save this and that. So, yeah, I mean, like, toxic places where I've worked, like, again, like, even if they're like, oh, yeah, we're all one big happy family. And then, like, you suddenly start asking questions. People are like, like, all just being toxic in that. And then it puts you off. And then, like, if you do make a mistake or something and it's on you because then you didn't ask, but then you're like, well, I didn't want to ask, you know what I mean? So, I just think, like, again, when I got offered the job, it was great to show on my blog site that I do love documenting stuff because, again, they said doing that. So, I found some things on Linux that I've had to learn sort of on the job, but I'll document it in, like the knowledge-based system because I'm a bit of a nightmare where I'll do something and it might be like really good and, save the day. But if I don't write it down 6 months later, I'm going to be like, oh, what was that thing I've done again? You know what I mean? Like, it's a nightmare. So I think old age kicking in as well, it don't help.
So our listeners, they exist in a variety of environments, right? We're talking about how positive their cultures are. Some are in more toxic cultures where maybe they're the only one trying to break out of whatever legacy habits and patterns and systems. And, you mentioned companies not being interested in improving things or being introspective, and that can be a pretty challenging place to be in. So to our listeners, if you're in a tough spot, hang in there, maybe try and find a new job, maybe try and lead from the inside.
I don't want a load of emails coming my way saying, hey man, you owe me a month's wage, I've lost my job, you damn, But yeah, please be careful, think about what you say. I actually, another sort of secret I ain't even said to my work, it's not really a secret because it's true and, whatever, but I got diagnosed with ADHD last year. So I've gone my whole life feeling a bit weird and, thinking, well, I'm always thinking this or, like doing it this way when other people are doing it that way. And, so to actually have that diagnosis has been great for me. And that's probably why I've been rambling on a bit now. You know what I mean? I'm pretty much to the point, say what I feel and think. And that's really come to sting me in the past, you know what I mean? Previous jobs and that. But like I say, is if you believe in yourself enough and you can be that sort of crazy person standing up on that like little box you made, like blah, 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 telling the people how great, it is that what you believe in. Well, for me, myself, you know what I mean? I've had some great things come back off of that. It was some really difficult times. I was thinking about just coming like a dustbin man or something, stacking store shelves or just something. I just had enough of IT because I thought I've been doing it for so long. And, I was still like, not at the bottom of the ladder, but not where I felt I could have been. And, with the skills I had in that and the fact that no one's using PowerShell out there or, from the places where I'd worked and things that I'd done from automating and now to being offered a job where they do use scripting, where they're embracing people. I've got like some call off some other guy because I mentioned that I did automating in one meeting and he's trying to get me in some automation team with like all the company, like from different sectors, like, and to automate new ideas. And I'm just like, this is brilliant. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so awesome.
It is nice when all of work seems to support you. That's something, as you said, you just came from a place or you've been in places where the culture is different. And I know once the camera's off, Andrew's really toxic. He tears me down all the time.
He's not lying.
So that maybe that's one solution is just, start filming and all of a sudden they're super nice.
Selfie cam all day.
But that's just one of those things where depending on the culture is minimal impact you can have, which makes it a bit disheartening. So I guess for someone who's, worked through it and come out the other side, do you have anything to help like advice for someone just trying to get to where you're at, or it just
don't
kind
give
of
up.
yeah.
Just don't give up. Just keep learning. Like I wouldn't say every day I learn something new, but I've learned new stuff in PowerShell, you know what I mean? And you get a new module that you've never used, something like that, import Excel, and then it's just like, wow, all this new stuff that I can do, but it's new commandlets, it's a new function or new parameters, or there's always chance to sort of just grow your PowerShell. And it's just I think if you are interested in PowerShell and that, and you're trying to script and that, just don't stop. Just keep doing it. And even if people are like, yeah, well, we've got Intune that does that, or we've got this tool that we spent £10,000 on that does that. Keep doing it. Keep on. You know what I mean? Keep writing your scripts. You'll get better at scripting. What you can build out your scripts. I just say, just don't give up. Just like I'd say to my kids, just try your best. Keep practicing, you know what I mean? And I'm lucky enough that, that dream job has kind of found me. But I do feel that if I hadn't have done all that blogging and, things like that it might not have. And all that blogging came out of my boss saying, stop doing overtime, because I wasn't getting paid for it. But I was doing the overtime just to solve stuff that it's just too busy in the day to look at or something, or, you know what I mean? They wanted me to be able to write amazing scripts and solve 50 problems a day. And you're like, well, I can't do both. You know what I mean? I can focus on calls or focus on the scripting. Or I don't like to be able to, be flipping between two. It's just too, I like to be able to focus,
That's pretty common. I think breaking your concentration when you're writing is you lose more time than just the time from your concentration break. It takes a long time to get back into the swing of it.
Again, working from home, I don't have other desks' phones ringing. I don't have Janice in the background or whatever going on about how her drains flooded at home, or you know what I mean, other people. I don't have any of that. That stuff just well bugged me out in the office. Just all the general chit chat and stuff. I just like to be just there on my work, I'm zoned in, doing my job, and a bit like that Camzat guy. I like to smash calls, bring me calls, I smash you. So yeah, that's what I like to do for the day, is just smash calls.
I think we're glossing over one of the most amazing things. You are working from home. You have 4 kids, 3 dogs, 2 cats, and
Right.
There's less interruption working from home than there is in the office.
Well, boom, mate. That's because the kids. Where are the kids all day, my friend? Where do kids go? They go to school.
There you go.
They might not in America. They might just go to a local trailer park or something and smoke some crack. But yeah,
I don't encourage my children to get educated.
But yeah. So boom, my kids are at school, so that gives me till about 3 o'clock till it starts getting a bit noisy. And then like I said, is my wife's pregnant, which got 5th baby on the way. I'm running out of fingers now. You know what I mean? If I get a 6th kid, I'll have to grow another finger or something. But yeah. So I told her to quit her job, so she's at home to look after the dogs and things and feed them during the day. And most importantly, make me lots of cups of tea, man. Because man, this is the size of my cup. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of tea, and I need a lot of tea, Yorkshire tea through the day.
Cheers. So
See, you need to get some Yorkshire tea, Andrew, instead of all those energy drinks, mate. E numbers ain't good for you, mate. No?
You're totally right. I save those for special guests like you, man.
You're buzzing there.
Oh, I'm laser focused right now on you in this conversation. But I want to circle back just a little bit, because I know there's so many people out there in those jobs, right, that we've been in before, where it's we want change, we can kind of change things. And this is a point we've made before, but when it comes to trying to make changes internally, rely on external sources of authority. Rely on the Phoenix Project, rely on the PowerShell podcast and the opinions held by us and the guests, right? These are people at the top of the industry oftentimes who have really good practices. And even if your work is not flexible, at least you're sanity checking yourself and knowing that your work isn't forcing you to believe inefficiencies. So believing that the improper way of doing something is maybe the proper way. Definitely would want to avoid that, because it can definitely be hopeless kind of going uphill with changes. Another part of your story, Adam, was applying for a job that you didn't think you were qualified for, that you wouldn't have ordinarily applied to. And to people out there in jobs that they can't get out of, or that they feel a little hopeless, a little rigid, apply for those jobs that you don't think you're ready for. Do the next step that makes sense for you. Adam, when you were on your grind trying to find that role, you were blogging, you were doing your thing, making yourself visible, planting those seeds. If you're trying to make things happen and you're not happy with where your career is right now and you're in a stagnant place, put in that work, take your next step, write that blog, contribute to that project, do what you got to do to make things happen for you. And I think, Adam, what you've really showed to us and what we can feel from talking to you is that your life is more relaxed. It's better. Like, this is more than just between 8 and 5, my work's a little bit better. There's lasting impacts, it feels like, from having a happy work life.
Definitely. Just like I think I said already about Gosport being a bit of a hellhole to get in and out of. So, not that I suffer too bad from road rage, but you do get vexed out if someone in front of you is driving like an idiot, or someone behind you is, or but yeah, it just seems like so many things that could wind me up or whatever in the day is just now gone. You know what I mean? From being in my opinion, the best place I could be working from at home, and I'm happy to put in the extra hours as well, and not do what I was doing before, like where you go in the office the next day and be like, wow, I was working till 9 last night. I don't even have to say that because, it's just, I've saved all that time from not traveling. But again, if anyone else out there is, struggling in the job that they're in and you believe you could have a better job, then I believe you could have a better job. Do it. Don't keep thinking about it. I'm not saying hand in your notice and walk out that day, but, start making yourself a better resume. Start, putting your notes somewhere online so you can show someone you are genuinely interested in what you're preaching about or what you're applying for. And, if you can do that enough, then you'll have people contacting you. And like I said, I haven't done any blogging this year, but I got a second invite on this show, which is awesome. I've had a few people come back to me saying, I listened to your PowerShell podcast, and, I felt really, like that they had some sort of connection there. And, I'm totally stoked by all the super guests that you've had on this show prior. And, I couldn't believe it when I first got asked on. I'm thinking like, man, do they know I'm not like a super famous PowerShell person and all of this? But maybe it's the fact that, other people can relate to me, like, yeah, damn, I do a support job, or I've done that help desk job, or, yeah, I'm writing a script right now to make something better. Do it, guys, just keep working on it, keep focusing and, you do it for enough time, just like driving, stuff becomes muscle memory, like when I'm changing all the gears in my car, I'm not even thinking about it. And now I'm just writing code without even thinking about it, with all my aliases and just, having code. And I know some other guy at work was watching me and he was like, damn, like, because I thought he was a coder, but yeah, he obviously couldn't freely write code, if you know what I mean, sort of thing.
I want to say something to our listeners. If you are listening to this right now, if you've listened to this point right now, you have what it takes for that new opportunity within your organization, outside of your organization. If you are interested in things enough to still be listening, you absolutely have what it takes, in my opinion. I'm not just saying that to gas people up, and you all are free to contribute your opinions, but if you're willing to listen to a PowerShell podcast for 45 minutes, you have what it takes to reach the next level. Take your next step. Like you just said, Adam, put in that repetition, because you can make things happen. And a story just like Adam's can be similar to yours. Adam is not the first person to go on this journey and find success and take these steps. It can be yours as well. You just have to take the next step for you.
So again, sorry.
I was going to say, I don't know if I mentioned this, but when I was applying for this job, I had actually given up halfway through. I just didn't think I was qualified, and my wife made me finish it because I was miserable. And then the interview process being clear that I was right, but the guy that was hiring me saw potential, and he took me when I wasn't qualified and coached me up. I owe Chris a lot. He's a legend. But so the worst you can tell if you feel you're not qualified, the worst you can be told is no. But there's lots of jobs out there. So if I had given up without my wife there, I wouldn't be in this job. I'd probably still be miserable. So it's worth putting in the effort to at least give it a shot.
And I think to highlight what Adam said, where he gets his confidence from, is that people who have been in IT, who are in positions to hire you for these better jobs, understand that at the core, we're just solving problems. And those core, you're a human. If you show good character and they have some confidence in you, show some interest, whatever it is, they understand that you're able to learn new skills. They understand that you're able to look things up and so on and so forth. So take that chance, put yourself out there. There's a lot of other people who aren't applying for very similar human reasons where we're afraid of whatever rejection, it's not worth the time, so on and so forth. But shout out to Karen for encouraging you, Jordan, because now look at you, man. You're crushing it.
That's why I married her. Like, one day this would pay off. I'm glad she doesn't listen to these.
Hey, at least you can tell her we gave her a shout out because she is awesome. I was so happy to meet her in person.
I mean, again, like yourself, Jordan, I'm super lucky that, you know, I've got a supportive wife and you know, she was there like saying to me, like, don't take this next, you know, second line support job, or don't, because you're not happy doing that, you know, you want something better. And, you know, I did have a few jobs that I'd actually said no to, and even though I was desperate for the money, but, you know, we was like just living off of her wage. And but I mean, I read it recently where Don Jones, he said he got laid off in like 2000 or something, and he had like 6 months sort of spare money saved up. But it was that basically got him doing his own training, and, you know, basically became the Don Jones that we all know. And I'm like, damn, like I've recently had that similar sort of thing happen to me where, you know, like I was totally brassic and, you know, I didn't have a job. What am I going to do with my life? And, you know, like I was thinking about just jacking it all in and starting some new trade, being like a bricklayer or something, you know, just something totally different because I just had enough of IT. But yeah, my wife's like, don't stop, like keep doing it, you know, keep applying, you know, keep doing it. And just, yeah, to have someone supportive and not giving up, and it's just totally paid off massively.
Yeah, so hopefully
that is very exciting to hear.
Yeah, so hopefully if anyone's listening, it's like I'm ready to burn out of IT, because we did a webcast a while ago. We were talking about IT burnout, and it was one of the highest engaged webcasts we had done, just because so many people had their stories to tell about how they are burning out, which sucks because IT is a wonderful, wonderful career to be in. So I guess, yeah, just if you can keep your head up and keep going, just you'll find the right opportunity, I think.
I mean, for me personally, like my biggest problem, or what I used to have working in the office, is that I would take that problem from the office and then it would come home with me. And then it'd be sitting here at home, like, this is the problem. And then I'd have to get out my laptop and then connect to my remote work. And then, you know, until this problem would just disappear. And then, but that might have been like 2-3 hours, you know, whatever, however many hours or minutes of my own time. And you were never getting that back, and you weren't getting paid for it. So, yeah, you know, that would like burn me out a lot. And I don't know, it's just nice to sort of like feel that when I've finished my work now for the day and that, I don't have to turn back on my laptop at 8 o'clock at night or to check, you know what I mean? It can wait until tomorrow. It's going to be like, I don't know, it's just weird, like working from home, that the problems aren't following me home, if you kind of get me, that, you know, that thing that you've seen on the dashboard all day that's red, you know, like I'm not vexed out about that or anything. It's just like, yeah, I'll just do it tomorrow, or I'll have a dream about some amazing idea I can do to fix it, you know, or something.
It sounds like you finally you got a good work-life balance where you get to live both parts of your life in a happy state.
Yeah. One thing I'd be curious next time we talk to you is if you still keep working till 7 p.m. Because it would be cool if you took those traveling hours and, you know, did something different with them. Might be a nice little perk.
Well, I mean, I would like to do some blogging in that. I don't know if I mentioned it on the last time I was on, but I like to watch the UFC on the weekend with a mate.
Oh gosh, and that's like
yeah,
very early for you in the morning, right? Like 5 a.m.
Yeah, so like I watch it after, like, You know what I mean? So when my mate comes around, like it's already been on, but we make sure we don't go on the news or anything to see any of the results. And yeah, he recently got this new dog. He got it off a mate. Bit of a long story. Lovely dog and that. But yeah, he brought it around my house and it kept running across my laptop because I just had like my laptop on the floor and it was connected up to the screen. And then, yeah, like after he left and that, like I went to use my laptop and half the keys now don't work on the keyboard. And I'm like, ah. So, yeah, that's been part of the reason I've not been blogging much because my actual laptop I did all my blogging on and that. Yeah, most of the keys don't work. And that on-screen keyboard is good, but it's just not, you know, quite sort of at my writing speed. And I have got another keyboard and that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just been busy, man. You know what I mean? Like just thinking, I'll spend it with the kids or the missus or I don't know, like when I finish work and the next thing I know, I'm going to bed, you know what I mean? Then it's another day and then it's the weekend. And I don't know, it's just all goes too quickly. Like I wanted to shout out on the blog going, yeah, I've got round 2 coming up on the podcast. But yeah, man, like here we are chatting about it now. And like, you know, the days have gone past and it's boom. But I would like to get doing some more blogging and that. And, but yeah, I just,
So I do have some good news for you. I know people dread the common parameters because the questions are so difficult, but I figure where you have answered the common parameters before, you won't have to run the gauntlet a second time. Unless you feel like the information has changed in the last 6 months. Do you have a new favorite module?
Well, like I said, that Chrissy Lemaire's KB update, Doug Fink's import Excel module. Obviously, there's the PowerShell Universal, but that's no longer a module. That used to be a module. So if you knew it from the early days when it was just Universal Dashboard, it was just a module. Now that's a fully fledged MSI. I don't know. I do get to use different modules and that. Obviously, the MS Online module and Exchange Online and, you know, the Azure modules and things. But like I say, it's like where I'm getting to use new modules and that, then you've got new commandlet names to learn and things. So, yeah, it's a difficult one to answer, but yeah, import Excel and KB update and PowerShell Universal.
Yeah, that's why common parameters, they terrify every guest. We get emails all the time about how can we skip it, and the answer is no. But where you've already answered it, we're going to let you. You're gonna get a 1 free pass.
Just the one.
Right, well, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Andrew actually answers the common parameters every day on his own, and every time it's a unique answer, and he's never struggled because that's just the kind of guy that he is.
Don't ask me to prove it. Don't ask me to prove it.
As good as he is at handling questions that difficult, he's even better at shilling a podcast. And so right now we're going to sit back. We're going to watch him just weave some magic. All right, take it away, Andrew.
Yeah, underwater basket weaving of magic. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Seriously, thank you. Again, if you're listening now, you are super destined for success. Congratulations. This message finds you well. On a real note, though, thank you so much to Adam for joining us. And thank you so much for listening. Hope this finds you well in your career. Hopefully you can take your next step, whatever that is. Give us a like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. You can email us and tell us your background about PowerShell and how you got into it and what inspires you and your whole life story by emailing us at powershell@pdq.com. Or you could follow us on Twitter at PowerShellPod. Just a couple guys interviewing every week. We're here for you. Weekly podcast. Adam, where can we find you on the internet? Where are you?
Hey, my alter ego name is PSDevUK. That's PSDevUK. Or if you search web for Adam Bacon, you'll see some hunky guy in some underpants. That's not me. He is a hunky man in underpants though. But PSDevUK is a safer search.
For Twitter, and then your blog is adam-bacon.netlify.app.
That's it. And hopefully we'll see some more blogs coming shortly. Just need to find myself a a new laptop keyboard or maybe a laptop. We've got a lovely one here. Like, there's no jitter, is there? You know, 16 gig of memory. Yeah. Core i7. Yeah. But yeah, it's running nicely. But
Flexing on us right now?
It's got everything you need but functionality, huh?
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, thanks for coming by. This is awesome talking to you again. I'm glad things are going well. And go say goodnight to your kids, I guess.
Yeah, it is. Thank you so much, guys, for having me back on. And obviously, any listeners who got this far, you're awesome. And thanks for listening. And thanks for having me on again.
Our pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the PowerShell Podcast with your hosts, Jordan Hammond and Andrew Plaw.
He's a troublemaker. He's a rabble-rouser.
The PowerShell Podcast is a production of PDQ.com, making device management simple, secure, and pretty damn quick.